Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Shaw Local's Bears Insider Podcast. I am Shaw Local Bears Insider Bears reporter Michael Dwojak here with the Northwest Herald's Joe Aguilar. It is a game day Friday. It is the final preseason game of the year for the Bears. The Bears are at the Kansas City Chiefs tonight. They'll be playing at 7:20 on Fox in their preseason finale. And this game three has a little bit more to it than it usually does. Usually game threes are kind of like, well, which backup is fighting for their lives right now? Obviously, who's fighting for a shot? But there'll be some intrigue into this game where we'll have Caleb Williams and the starters playing a little bit here. And Kansas City Chiefs coach Andy Reid also said that their starters are going to be playing. So that means we get to see Patrick Mahomes and a lot of their Super Bowl caliber, obviously championship team out there. But Joe, just to get started, I mean, we got a really interesting one here tonight for it being a game three in the preseason.
Yeah, I'm glad Caleb Williams and all the starters are playing. I'm glad the Chiefs starters are playing. I mean, it'll probably be a short, a couple series maybe for both, but at least we'll see it again. And I'm glad they're not, for the Bears' sake, anyway, I'm glad they're not sitting the quarterback, because I still think we just want to see if what we saw last week against Buffalo was that legit? Was that real? We were certainly feeling great all week right after that. Let's see if it continues tonight.
All right, if you guys are joining us on the live stream, we appreciate you joining us. Make sure to give us a like, subscribe. That's the best way to support us. And thanks so much for joining us live. And if you are listening on the podcast, make sure you're checking us out on our social media streams. We'll always post about when we're doing the live stream, so you guys can join us live and kind of get some questions in there and ask us whatever you want heading into a big game or after a big game. But Joe, just wanted to, before we kind of get into the game here, wanted to break down a few things that happened over the past week. Bears only had they only had one practice on Wednesday. They held a walkthrough on Tuesday. So a short week, obviously, after playing on Sunday night against the Bills. They had the day off on Monday. They have the day off on Thursday. So one real practice in there. And it looked like it was a fine practice. I thought Caleb looked fine in there. I think the bigger things were that we saw Kyler Gordon out there on the field for the first time. He's been out for the last week with a hamstring injury. He did not partake in team drills or anything like that, but he was out there. He was stretching. He was doing some individual stuff. So that's got to be some encouraging news, Joe, just for a guy who is quintessential to this defense's success this year.
Yeah, Jalen Johnson, did you mention?
And Jalen Johnson warmed up on Sunday, but Kyler was back at practice on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, both those guys. I mean, the secondary issues, especially with the big news of the week to me, which we kind of feared, was Terrell Smith going out for the season with the knee injury. That's a real shame, because that corner spot, the whole depth, that corner was looking pretty good there. And he looks like he can play as a starter in this league, whether it be for the Bears or somebody else. So that's a real shame. But this is why you got good coaches, right? And you load up on defensive backs. Do they have the depth to replace them? It's tough, but that's why it's the old next man up thing. But I think they got a tough break there. The good news, I guess, Austin Booker is okay. I know they took him out of the game. He got a little banged up or dinged up, whatever, Sunday night. But it looks like he's good to go, correct?
Well, he wasn't at practice on Wednesday, and so we'll see where that is. Obviously, it's a precaution. He was dealing with a knee injury, so he wasn't out there. J.P. Richardson wasn't out there. Dominique Robinson was not out there. All those guys left practice, left the game on Sunday, and were not back there. Also, the Bears made a move the other day on Tuesday, and that was signing running back Royce Freeman onto the roster. And that was because they placed Deion Hankins on the reserved injured list. Obviously, another tough injury. That running back room and the secondary room is dealing with a lot of injuries right now. Obviously, for the running back room, DeAndre Swift, he was practicing on Wednesday. Obviously, I think Sunday was, at this point, it's a precaution. And we'll talk about this a little bit more, but I don't know if we'll see DeAndre Swift on Friday tonight, because you can't risk that injury because, Roshan Johnson has been out with a toe injury. Kyle Monungai did not play on Sunday, and he did not practice on Wednesday. Deion Hankins, like you said, Travis Homer has been out with an injury. So your running back room is pretty depleted at this point, a couple weeks before the season. So it'll be really interesting to kind of see what we kind of get out of that room tonight. But yeah, Joe, a lot of injuries to kind of keep an eye on. Javon Dexter left Wednesday's practice after he kind of got rolled up. He did come back out and take part. He did some running stuff, and I think he got in for at least one more play. And we had Tremaine Edmonds also leave practice on Wednesday. That could have been nothing. Obviously, we didn't get a chance to talk to Ben Johnson after practice on Wednesday, and we won't get a chance to see until tonight's game. So those are kind of the major injury updates. Left tackle battle, Braxton Jones took all of the first team snaps on Wednesday at practice. Theo Benedict got all of the second team snaps, and then Kieran Namagaji worked in with the third team. Ozzie Trapillo continued to work in at the right tackle with the second team. So, I mean, the Bears haven't announced it at this point, Joe, but I mean, all signs are pretty much pointing to Braxton Jones is probably your starting left tackle, especially if he starts today. Like I think that I don't think that the competition maybe is over per se. Like I'm sure they're going to keep going at it at week one. And if, Theo or other guys can kind of push Braxton, then they'll do that. But it does seem like it's Braxton's job at this point.
Yeah, and I think he was the favorite going in. I know there was a lot of Ozzie Trapillo hype early on, that maybe he's going to be the guy. We got this rookie, and we're going to put him in at left tackle, and he's going to be great. Let's pump the brakes on that a little bit. If Braxton Jones is healthy, I think at least you know what you got. Been saying it, all year really with these podcasts that you know what you have with him. You can trust him. He's not going to the Pro Bowl anytime soon. But if he's healthy, that's put him in there. And then you got Benedict, who's been a nice story. Let's face it, no one really knew who he was coming into the camp. I didn't. Undrafted guy out of Canada, and was on the practice squad all last season. So that's the way it should be. I mean, you got 2 more weeks here, from today. And a little more than 2 weeks from the season opener. So let him heal up. And if he's good to go, I mean, I think that's good. If you're looking at that line with Jones and Tooney and Dahlman and Jackson and Darnell Wright, that's, again, they upgraded the interior, and then your 2 tackles. You hope the one guy on the right side, Wright, still has, the Pro Bowl potential. I think he does. And you're good there.
Yeah, we'll get more into the, position stuff next week or in the next couple of weeks when we kind of look into, previewing the season, what are realistic expectations for guys and that sort of stuff. But I agree. I think, Braxton Jones will benefit from having an all-pro. I mean, at this point, he's a Hall of Famer, right? Like Joe Tooney. Yeah. Like, I think anyone's going to benefit from playing next to him. And I think Braxton Jones will too. Obviously, feet have always been his problem. He knows that about himself. And I think the biggest problem with Braxton this offseason was like, you can't really improve on your footwork if you're trying to recover from a severe ankle break, right? Like I got a chance to talk to Braxton after the game on Sunday and had that story on Monday. And I mean, he's essentially said like, I'm progressing well, like I'm doing good, but like I did like severely break my ankle. Like it is a hard thing to kind of recover from and kind of come back to and kind of get into the swing of things. So yeah, that'll be something that we'll definitely watch tonight just to kind of see. I would expect Braxton starts. And especially if he's going against a majority of the starters for the Kansas City defense, I think it'll be really interesting to watch him, see what he can do there. One final note before we kind of get into tonight's game, the Bears rewarded Tyson Bagent with a 2-year, $10 million extension that'll keep the Bears backup quarterback here through the 2027 season. And that was kind of a cool moment on Wednesday. I don't know if you folks got a chance to see the video of Tyson talking about, just not only just going from, being an undrafted quarterback from a Division II Shepherd University, and making it as a backup quarterback, obviously earning the extension. That alone is cool, but then obviously what it means for his family. He talked about his dad growing up without running water until high school, like just what it means for the community, what it means for his family. I think, it's easy for us to kind of get lost into the X's and O's, obviously, of football and be like, we got to win there, you got to do this and all that sort of stuff. But I think Wednesday was a good reminder that, these guys are human, like they are fighting for their lives, they're fighting for their families. And it was a really cool moment to kind of watch Tyson, express just what that moment meant for him to get that 2-year extension and what that money means for his family.
I agree. I mean, and then you see so many guys holding out over millions. How many millions do you need, for crying out loud? But so that was, I don't know if that went national, how much play that got nationally, the moment there at the mic where he got emotional and was tearing up. I hope it did. I think all pro athletes need to see that because, I mean, it's not only football. We see it in other sports too, NBA in particular. Guys, I mean, look, I understand you want to get as much money as you can, but here's a guy like he can't believe it. He's going to get paid $5 million a year over the next 2 years. And I think we saw 2 years ago when he filled in for Justin Fields for that 4-game stretch that he's competent. He's capable. And for Ben Johnson to just gush about him since day one here, or really since the more they've gotten to know their personnel, is really impressive. I mean, for Ben Johnson, we know how smart he is and how well spoken he is, but for him to be speaking that highly of Tyson Bagent really speaks volume for the kid, and good for him. It really was a good story this week, because sometimes it is just all about the X's and O's. And I don't care, can he play? I don't care if he gets emotional. Can he play? And I think we've seen in this brief 2 years and plus this training camp that, again, he's not better than Caleb Williams. I don't want to hear the quarterback controversy of Caleb starts 0 for 5
Yeah, sure.
on Monday night in 2 weeks, but he looks like he's competent, and it looks like, again, we're assuming your defense can hold its own, that you're not going to be thinking, oh my gosh, if Caleb is out for 4 weeks, this is 4 losses. It's automatic with Tyson Bagent. I don't think that's the case at all.
No, and I think Tyson has kind of shown you from the beginning of training camp that he has learned everything about Ben Johnson's offense. He knows it to a T. He knows what it's supposed to look like. He knows where the ball is supposed to be in certain moments. Like, I think we talked about this in previous podcasts. Does he have the same talent as Caleb Williams? No, obviously not. Caleb was the number 1 pick a couple years ago, and Tyson Bagent went, undrafted. Maybe if he did end up going to West Virginia his senior year, maybe he would have gotten some more eyes on him, and maybe that would have projected his life or him a little bit higher to get drafted, because clearly he has the talent to be quarterback in this league. But I think it was a benefit. Like, it was a good deal for both sides. It's good for the Bears to get their backup quarterback settled. You don't have a controversy there. You know who he is. And for Tyson, like, he talked about the idea, like, yeah, I did think about maybe I should just go out in free agency and see what I can do. Maybe a team will take a chance on me to be a starter somewhere. But he really liked the opportunity. He loved Chicago. He called it a second home. And he did talk about, like, I can grow a lot under this coaching staff. Like, Ben Johnson can develop me. Ben Johnson can, like, put me in the best spot to succeed. And if I'm him, like, I don't disagree with that move, right? Like, there are a lot of great, obviously, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, a lot of great coaches are out there. A lot of great offensive coaches out there. But if you're already on the roster with a coaching staff like Ben Johnson, I mean, you're in a really good opportunity if you're going to put the work in, you're going to succeed. So I feel like the deal made sense for both the Bears standpoint and Bagent's standpoint. And it was good to kind of see them get that locked down for the next 2 years.
Yeah. And again, like any young person, you need to be in a work environment. I don't care if it's sports or whatever. I just speak from, experience and being as old as I am, that you need to be working where you're going to be learning, and you need to be learning from smart people. Right. If you're not in that environment, you're 22, 23, 25, whatever, you gotta think about where you're going. So he knows here he can learn from some really smart people, namely, Ben Johnson. So I think he made the right move. And, look, the Bears aren't like, even if someone said, hey, what's it going to take to get Tyson Bagent? No one's going to bring him in as a starting quarterback right now. He really hasn't proven anything yet to other teams. So maybe he gets an opportunity here in some games, and you don't want Caleb to get hurt, but we'll see if he gets an opportunity. But I think he's going to learn a lot here. And I mean, this only is entering his 3rd year in the league. So even if he sticks around 2 years and then maybe gets an opportunity where he goes to a situation where there is a legit quarterback competition, he's not going to get it where there's an established guy. So maybe that happens, but he's still a young guy. And, as we've seen a lot now, a lot of quarterbacks, it's taken a while to figure it out. Baker Mayfield, and there are a lot of other guys. So it's not all of a sudden you come in and, you have a year like Jane Daniels right off the bat.
Yeah, I think Tyson, at least, I was looking at the stats. Obviously, 3 touchdowns, or 6 interceptions, and during that stretch where he played against when Justin Fields got hurt, like you mentioned a couple of years ago. I think he's shown to you that he's got a spot in this league. He's going to be a player in this league for the next 15 years, whether it's with the Bears or other teams. He's going to jump around different rosters, and he's going to be an efficient, good quarterback which any team would want on the roster. So congrats to Tyson, obviously, on getting that extension. I'm sure we'll see a lot of him tonight after Caleb's done. And hopefully for Bears fans' sakes, we don't see Tyson for the rest of the year, because that means that Caleb is healthy and things are going well. And Tyson knows that. He knows that once the preseason's over, his time is over, and then he just wants 18 to take over. All right, let's talk about tonight's game. And I feel like we'll talk a little bit more about this game than we normally would at game 3 in the preseason, because obviously Caleb is starting and the starters are getting going here, Joe. But obviously the number one thing that most people are going to watch for tonight is how Caleb Williams looks. Obviously he looked great in that first game against the Bills. First drive, touchdown. Obviously second drive, maybe not as efficient as they were in the first drive, but what are you looking for tonight? Because tonight's going to be an interesting atmosphere where I feel like Kansas City is always a tough place to play. And I know it's the preseason, but with the starters playing tonight, I think that'll bring the crowds out. And I think tonight will be a really interesting environment to watch how Caleb in the offense does, with the procedure stuff. Can he hear the play calling? Can he get it out there? Can he effectively communicate it? How does his cadence? Do they have to go to a silent count? Like, I think those are all really interesting things to look at tonight, because like I mentioned in my 4 storylines to look forward to, they've been home this entire time. They've been at Lake Forest and only practicing at Hallis Hall against the Bills and the Miami Dolphins. And both of their games have been at home. So they had a lot of home stuff going on right now. And obviously they practice with the loud music and noise to kind of get you ready for a road setting. But tonight is really going to be the first time we kind of see Caleb deal with an adverse atmosphere. I'm really interested to see, how does he handle that and how does he kind of keep him moving?
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see, can they continue to build off what they did last week? I mean, you don't have to flirt with 40 points in the first half again. We don't need to see it look that good, but we do need to see what we saw more of in those those only series he had last week against Buffalo. So that's what I just want to see. I want to see, again, more of everyone breaking the huddle in time, no one jumping offside. All of a sudden it goes from 1st and 10 to 1st and 15. I don't want to see any of that, because you can't have that. Everyone still talks about how this is a work in progress with Caleb and this offense. So these are important series. These are important environments. And like you said, Michael, I mean, you're playing a night game in an away stadium, and against, it's only this Kansas City Chiefs, for crying out loud. So I hope they throw some things at him. I hope they try to confuse him, because I want to see how he handles that. And he wasn't perfect last week against Buffalo. Not that he had to be. No quarterback is really in any NFL games, but I just want to see more of that. And I want to see the weapons, because we got a glimpse of that, what it looks like when you get all these weapons involved. And I think they just kind of scratched the surface last week with what they potentially can do with the 2 rookies and Burden and Loveland, and then your veterans. And, we all expect Rome to have better numbers this year and up his play this season. He's still got DJ Moore. He's still got Cole Kmet. And then, Zacchaeus looked good. The kid who we might get to later, not that Jade Walker is going to be like an impact player, but we see a lot there. And I maintain that Caleb doesn't have to be perfect. Like it seemed like every snap he had to be perfect every time he dropped back to throw last week, or last season rather. But I just want to see some open guys and then get the ball in the hands of these skill guys and see what they can do, because we saw that last week. And I want to see more of that where, just a simple pass, like even the first play of the game, right? With Loveland last week, that little, rollout boot, and he hits Loveland stride and he got 9 yards on the play.
Yeah,
we've seen tight end in Chicago drop that pass before. We've seen guys go down right away. So that, even though that was just a little glimpse, I was like, all right, let's go. And then they continued that and, capped it with the long touchdown pass.
Yeah, I think, obviously everyone would love like a 50-yard pass to Rome Odunze, or anyone would love whatever. But I agree. I think I want to see more of what I saw in that first drive.
Really,
I want to see Caleb being effective finding his passes. They can be 5-yard passes, 7-yard pass. I just want him to be effective with his decision making, right? And finding his like you mentioned, like he found Cole Kmet, he found Colston Loveland early and got the ball moving. He found Zacchaeus obviously for that touchdown. Like you want to see him you want the decision making to be good. And I think kind of getting back to my earlier point just about you want to see him do it in an atmosphere where it's not going to be perfect. Everyone is going to be yelling loudly, especially on third down. Like, can Caleb find the right guy on a silent count? Can everyone run things the right way and be on the same page about where they're supposed to be? So I agree. I think it's pretty much, I would love for him to throw for 100 yards on a drive or two, get a touchdown in there, move the ball. But I think the biggest thing is procedurally, I want the ball. I want it to look right. I want no false starts, no delay of games like we kind of saw in practice on Wednesday. That stuff needs to get fished out. So, I think that's the biggest thing. You just want it to look effective. You want it to look good. If you have to settle for a field goal because you're trying something on third down in the red zone and maybe the play was there, but it wasn't, or you just have to throw it away. Okay, I can live with that. As long as you're looking effective for the most part and you're moving the ball down the field, I'm fine with that. And obviously the other big thing is as long as you don't get injured, right? Like I don't know how long they'll play. I would assume it's probably 2 series. Maybe it's the first quarter. I don't know if, I don't think, coaches talk about it too much before preseason games as much as they do before joint practices. But I think you keep them in there for a few series, maybe 3 series, and then you call it a day, and then you say, let the backups get in there. But I do think maybe if you go 3 and out on the first drive or even the first 2 drives, you definitely have to bring them out, and you kind of want to get some positive momentum going into the regular season because you don't want to just put them out there, have, a couple bad plays, and then have that sour taste in your mouth over the next 2 weeks as you get ready for Minnesota.
Yeah, no, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, that's exactly it. If they go 3 and out, then you're going to send them out again. And then, even if they move the ball a little bit on the third series, you're going to be 2 weeks sitting on this like, who do we have here? Who's the real Bears here? Is it the Buffalo preseason game or is it the Kansas City preseason game? So, I mean, I'll stop thinking negative thoughts because there's probably lots of time during the regular season. I've been doing that for a long time as a Bears fan anyway, and as a reporter. So I'll probably okay. I'm not even going to think about the negative thoughts. I'm just going to think positives, Michael, and they're going to score a touchdown on the first drive and march 80 yards, and then let's go.
For sure. Chicago Sports Style is joining us and brings up a good point of what I want to talk about here. Moving on, is Zay Frazier practicing fully yet with Smitty out and no Jalen Johnson? Cornerback depth is being tested. We did see Zay Frazier at Hallis on Wednesday. We only saw him before practice. He was moving around in a cart, being taken somewhere. At this point, I don't, he's out for a personal matter. He hasn't been out in the practice field at this point. I wouldn't count on him at this point. Maybe, hopefully, the first thing is you obviously want the best for him and whatever is going on in his personal life. Obviously, it has to be very serious for him to miss all of training camp. Like these players obviously know how important this is. So this has to be a very personal matter and a very important matter. So obviously we want what's best for him. But at this point, I don't think you can count on Zay Frazier. That was one of my other storylines. Like, obviously, with Patrick Mahomes playing, I'm really curious to see what Dennis Allen and this defense decides to do in terms of pressuring Pat Mahomes, right? Like, obviously, you're not going to go full packages. You're not going to show everything that you can do defensively because it's the third preseason game. But I think you do want to show, can your pass rush create pressure on Mahomes? And once Mahomes, gets off on the scramble like he always does and finds the open pass, is your secondary there to do it? Is Tyreek Stevenson going to be able to keep up? Is Nahshon Wright, is he going to be able to keep up? Nick McLeod has entered a lot in that nickel spot right now. So I'm really interested in the secondary because it's pretty depleted at this point. We were talking about how much of a strength it was heading into the season. And, 4 or 5 weeks later, it's pretty depleted at this point. So I'm really interested to see who's able to step up here. And I think this is a really big opportunity for both Nahshon and Tyreek to step up because, both are still fighting for that number 2 spot if Jalen Johnson is ready for the season opener on Monday. So I think this is a really big spot for both of them if they want to prove that they should get that number 2 spot.
Yeah, and it's still Patrick Mahomes, right? I mean, they're still going to want to perform well, and here's an opportunity to get something on tape. I'm just hey man, I broke up a pass. I had a hurry on the quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, that quarterback. So I think all that matters, and I think the energy again, which we've seen early on in the 2 preseason games, that the energy, the intensity has been there. So just more of that, but. I think Mahomes, he's probably going to be out of there in 2 series anyway. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember even Josh Allen was last year, listening to the radio, going wherever I was, and Josh Allen just going downfield. It was the preseason game, but it's just like, yeah, it's going to be more of the same this year probably, and it was. So I don't want to see Mahomes just march downfield, 2 touchdown drives, call it a night. I mean, I think it is important to stop him. I mean, at least you can't stop him. You just got to contain him, right? That kind of thing. So yeah, let's see what they got, and hope they bring the intensity. I don't really doubt that they will. I think they'll be ready. With just where this whole coaching staff has had these guys ready to go. Again, I think I'm more confident that they got the right guy in Ben Johnson and the right coaches. The players you just never know, and injuries, and it's really unfortunate here about the young corner, Zay Frazier. But again, it's a long season, so you said, hopefully everything is okay with him and his family or whatever's going on there. But let's see some more positives from the defense, because I know so much focus here has been on Caleb and Ben, and rightfully so. But I'm liking more and more about what I've seen defensively with Dennis Allen, how he's going to get guys in position to make plays, and that's what coaching is all about, right?
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm looking at that first wave of the defense, and that's obviously the pass rush. Like, obviously you need both the pass rush and the secondary to kind of make this Dennis Allen defense work. But I want to see Montez Sweat. I want him to get after the quarterback. I want him pressuring Patrick Mahomes. I want to see what we saw from Grady Jarrett this training camp. I know there was a lot of talk about him being a veteran. Maybe his best days are behind him. Obviously, he dealt with an injury that was kind of coming back from last year, but. I mean, through training camp, he's looked like a monster. He's gotten through. He's created a lot of pressure inside the line. They move him around. They move, obviously, all the defensive linemen around. So I am really interested to see, what does Javon Dexter look like if he's healthy to play, right? Like, what does Dayo Adeyingbo looks like? I feel like we've seen flashes from him where, especially during camp practices, where he's shown that he can be versatile. He's shown that talent that kind of attracted Ryan Poles to give him that contract this offseason. But I'm really interested to see, can they create pressure, and are they going to be able to do it, especially if the secondary is going to be a little depleted at the start of the season? So I'm really interested to see what that looks like with Sweat and Dio on the outside, and Grady and Javon and Andrew Billings too. I think that's going to be a big thing too. He's going to be a rotational guy. He might not start, but he's definitely going to be in there for a lot of the plays. So that is definitely something that I'll be watching tonight. Watching just how much are you able to affect them? Are you going to be able to stop Patrick Mahomes all the time? No, he's Patrick Mahomes. He's obviously the best quarterback in the league right now. He wins Super Bowls for reasons, but can you contain him, and can you force him to maybe make some preseason mistakes? I think that's the biggest thing that I'm going to be looking for in this defense today.
Yeah, I agree. I want to see. I really like the idea of having Garrett and Billings up front there. I've said it before. I thought they really missed Andrew Billings when he went out last year. I didn't think they were the same team, especially against the run, when he went out. And he had a big play last week. Didn't he team up with Booker for a sack? But his presence is known. And those guys are two kind of gregarious, likable guys, and they're big boys. And I think you need that, and it has a role. And we got 2 of those guys now up front there. I think that's a big deal. And I mean, it's certainly not the sexy play we like to see with the sacks and the interceptions, that kind of thing. But those guys are really important inside. And I'm curious to see how Dennis Allen is going to rotate those guys, and how he brings out the best in both of those guys.
All right, looking at some other stuff, obviously, the starters will be in there for a little bit, but then it'll be much of the backups in there, and guys who are playing for their lives at this point, or their football lives. We got cut down day coming up on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Time. Bears have to go make their roster go from 90 to 53 guys. Obviously, that's a lot of people that are going to be getting pink slips on Tuesday, unfortunately. Position battle wise, obviously we know left tackle. I think we'll be watching Braxton Jones. We'll be watching Theo Benedict. And I think at this point, you would have to have Braxton get pretty overmatched for him to kind of lose that starting position. I think that they're going to go with him at this point, and they're going to ride that. But some other interesting position battles that I'm really interested in. Offensively, quarterback, what the room is going to look like at this point. Tight ends, it's going to be Loveland, Komet, and Smythe at this point. The offensive line, I actually feel like pretty good about, especially with the depth. You like the starting lineup, but I do like Theo Benedict, Bill Murray. Ryan Bates has shown that he can actually do pretty well at the center position. Luke Newman has looked pretty good. They've moved him around a little bit on the offensive line to kind of see whether he can play the left or right guard and all that sort of stuff. But two position battles offensively that I'm going to be looking at tonight is what's going on with the wide receiver and what's going on with the running back room. Starting off with the running back room, I think before these injuries, you were kind of like, okay, who's going to make the cut? But I mean, at this point, Roschon Johnson is injured. Kyle Monangai is injured. DeAndre Swift. Travis Homer we haven't seen for a couple weeks at this point. So, I mean, you're in a spot where, Ian Wheeler, Britton Brown, Royce Freeman. I mean, what do you do here, Joe? I guess the bigger question is Roschon Johnson a cut at all for you? Like, are you at all worried at this point with the toe injury, or are you pretty much confident that what we saw with him when he was healthy, that he's got a spot on this roster? I mean, this running back room is really interesting to me because you got a lot of injured guys. So do you put those guys on IR to start the year? Do you put those guys on some sort of list and kind of protect yourself and kind of get some backups? I think they've got some really interesting choices to make here in this running back room because it's not a healthy room and you don't really know what you have at this point.
Well, that's it. I mean, like, who's healthy? Is anybody healthy? I mean, Ian Wheeler, I mean, guys, he's healthy. I mean, there are a few guys, but there's so many guys, and we just don't know the severity of the injuries. And will they be ready in 2 weeks when it matters? Now, again, if DeAndre Swift isn't ready, now I have concerns because I don't think you have a guy who can carry the football, 15 to 20 times a game, and where you can count on him, to rush for 75, 80 yards or more. So I don't know if they have that guy. So to me, it's who's healthy? Do they have enough healthy bodies? And even if they do, how confident are they in just in case DeAndre Swift isn't ready? Do they go out and try to make a trade? I mean, maybe go after a guy like Brian Robinson in Washington. I mean, there's options. They're always running backs. A lot of running backs are going to get cut in the next few days. So what do they do there? Or how much do they like this running back group? Again, I'm not a scout. I never played running back, but I like Ian Wheeler. I am excited. I was excited about what he did in the preseason last year before hurting the knee. I like him. I don't know who they like, but it's really who's healthy. And then Roschon Johnson is an interesting one. I mean, I know Roschon was good. He was getting a lot of touchdowns on the goal line last year, but he never wowed me. I mean, I know he's a great guy. I mean, everyone loves him, right? He's a great special teams guy.
Sure.
Who's the other kid you mentioned? Travis Homer. He's a special teams guy. He's not going to carry the ball 10, 12 times a game. So
he is very good on special teams, though. I will say he is very important on special teams.
He's probably got a spot if he's healthy there, right? I mean, the guy's probably played 4 or 5 years in the league now because of his special teams play. But boy, it first comes down to who's healthy. If everybody's healthy, it's DeAndre Swift. I don't know what they do with Roschon Johnson. That would be the surprise cut, but how much do they like the other guys? I don't know. And they're always looking. Every team was always looking for depth. But would the Bears go out and actually make a trade? Not that you'd have to give up, day two pick or anything like that. They'd probably get somebody for, day 3 pick or something like that. So I'll be curious to see what they do at that spot.
Yeah, I'm interested. I think they're all kind of, like you said, it kind of depends on the injury. Like, what is Kyle Monongai's injury? Is this at all? Is this just a precaution at this point? Or you're like, we're not going to run him out there just to risk, further injury? Like, there's no point of doing that right now. Like, if it's one of those deals, then I think you're comfortable with DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson, Kyle Monongai, Travis Homer, and Ian Wheeler, right? Because I agree with you. I like the way Ian Wheeler runs with the opportunities that he's got. And Travis Homer is a special teams guy that you need on your roster. So I think at that point, you're keeping those 5 running backs on your roster. and keep seeing if Travis Homer and Ian Wheeler can be special teamers. But yeah, I agree. We'll see in the next couple of days. We'll see. I don't know if Ben Johnson will give an update on the running back room tonight or whether we'll have to wait until Monday for that. But I think based on their actions or maybe their inactions, that'll give us an idea about what they're thinking about with the running back room. The other interesting offensive room that I'm interested in is the wide receiver room, because that thing is loaded with talent, right? And I think it's going to be interesting to see how many guys they decide to keep, because you've got your obvious guys that are part of this team, right? You got your Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Olamide Zaccheaus has proven that, he is going to be a weapon for you this year. I think that might have been one of the most underrated additions that the Bears made over the offseason. And obviously, he needs to do this in a regular season, but he has looked great and he's looked dependable. So he's obviously going to be a guy who's on your roster. Then you got Luther Burden III, and you have to keep at this point Devin Duvernay just because of his return capabilities, right? So those are 5 guys that you got right there in your room, and there's still a bunch of guys that I'm interested to see. Like Jade Walker has looked really good this year. I've liked what I've seen from him from camp. Maurice Alexander obviously has. He's got a history with Ben Johnson. Miles Boykin is fighting for a spot. J.P. Richardson caught a lot of people's attention early during camp. Samari Torres kind of gotten a couple big catches. And then obviously for the podcast, I mean, what are we doing with Tyler Scott? Are we keeping Tyler Scott, or is he a cut victim? So, Joe, I mean, of those wide receivers, who do you feel like has the most to kind of prove here outside of the 5 guys that we talked about who are, definitely on this roster? Because if you only keep 6 wide receivers, you've got 4 or 5 guys fighting for one spot at this point.
That's what it looks like, unless, heaven forbid, there's an injury there. But like you said, Duvernay's got to stick because he's a return guy. But so really, that's 5 spots that are locks, and then it comes down to, who's the 6th guy. Tyler Scott, was that his best moment as a Bear last week? That touch, I don't think we even talked about it in our podcast on Monday. That touchdown catch last week against the Bills was pretty sweet, continuing on his route and then tiptoeing the line here to stay in. I'm like, was that Tyler Scott? Unbelievable. So that was a really nice moment for him. But Walker too has looked really good. And I don't know. I think it comes down to one spot for what there's still 5 or 6 receivers in that group. It comes down to one spot. And Walker, I mean, if they cut him, is he going to get claimed? A lot of these guys don't get claimed, so maybe he's a practice squad guy. And if there are injuries, maybe he's the guy who gets an opportunity. But my guess, like you said, and you know better than me, Michael, it comes down to that cluster of 5, 6 guys, whatever it is, for one spot.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see, especially what happens with Tyler Scott, because Tyler Scott does give you special teams opportunities. He can be a kick returner for you, punt returner. Yeah. Obviously, he misplayed that opening kickoff against the Bills, so that wasn't a good moment for him. But listen, I think at this point, I think it's just Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham and the personnel staff just doing the math and being like, which guys do we really need to keep? Because if we don't keep them, like, there's not a chance that they're going to be on our practice squad because someone else is going to claim them. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing for them right now. And I think, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe at this point, we're not going to get into the cut business. We'll leave that on Monday. I guess we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I agree. I think you got Tyler Scott, Jade Walker, Maurice Alexander, I guess, Miles Boykin, J.P. Richardson. We don't know if he's healthy. Samari Torres. Those guys are fighting for that final spot, right? And that'll be really interesting to watch who's able to shine today. Who does Ben Johnson kind of give them an opportunity to go with Caleb in the first team, or, the first couple of drives, just to kind of see what they can do, just to kind of see, hey, how do they look with Caleb? Like, which one has a good rapport with Caleb? I think that'll be really interesting to watch. But yeah, those are our wide receiver guys to look at, because those are probably the 2 biggest competitions that we've got on the team right now in terms of cuts. Going to the defense is kind of tough for me with the secondary, because you don't know what you have right now, right? Like, you don't know, is Jalen Johnson going to be ready for week 1? Is Kyler Gordon going to be ready for week 1? It's good that they're practicing. It's good that we're seeing them. But if you don't play, I mean, you have to keep – I mean, at this point, you're keeping Tyreek Stevenson, you're keeping Jalen Johnson. You're obviously keeping Nashawn Wright because he's battling for a starter spot. Josh Blackwell, you're obviously keeping for that nickel spot with Kyler. I think you're going to have to keep more than you normally would have, right? Like Jeremiah Walker is going to have to be someone you're looking for. Tyshim Johnson has been injured, so we'll see how much he's able to play. Zay Frazier obviously has not been out there. You're going to need Trey Flowers out there. So I think this is a spot where probably if you had a healthy cornerback room, some of these guys would not be in the mix, but I think a lot of these guys are going to be in the mix because you just don't know what you have at this point.
Yeah, kind of like the running back situation, although you need more corners than running back. So, it's a matter of health and who's ready. And like I say, like Zay Frazier, they're not going to cut him or anything. I mean, his spot on the roster is guaranteed. So that's let's just hope Jalen Johnson is healthy. If he's healthy, I feel a lot better. And Kyler Gordon, because Kyler is so darn good. And I'm curious to see how Dennis Allen uses him a little differently than just being a standard nickel corner. So but you need those two. It all starts there, and then you figure out the rest. But to me, get those guys on the field. Hopefully they're ready in 2 weeks here when it starts for real, and then I'll feel a lot better.
Other guys that I'm kind of looking forward to on the defensive line, obviously Montez Sweat, Dio, Javon Dexter, Grady Jarrett, Andrew Billings, Austin Booker. Those guys are all guaranteed spots. I would think at this point, Shamar Turner, obviously we haven't gotten a chance to see him in team activities, but we've seen him at practice. He's ramping up and getting back into things. The Dominique Robinson injury is interesting to me because it's an ankle injury. Obviously the ankle's important for every football player, but obviously for a defensive lineman who's pass rushing, you want to see him do well. So I'm interested to see, Daniel Hardy, does Tano get some run there? Jamari Cromar, like I'm interested to look at who they keep on the defensive line, and so I'm going to be watching, Daniel Hardy. I'm going to be watching Chris Williams, Zach Pickens. Is this a make or break game for him right now? Like, right? Is this just a moment where the Bears are going to say, I haven't seen enough from a third round pick, or are they going to keep him? Like, I think those are going to be interesting matchups to watch because you've only got so many spots, and because of injuries, you might have to choose some players over other guys. And I think this might be an interesting spot, especially for Zach Pickens. If he can't show it, he might become a cut victim here on Tuesday.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, who do you think will be the surprise cut? There's always one for every team or two. But Zach Pickens, that's the question. Do they give him the benefit of the doubt being a third-round pick and saying, okay, we still see enough there, maybe with a new coaching staff, we can work with him. We can find spots for him to where he's effective. But I don't know. And Michael, I think at this point, the coaches already kind of have they kind of know who's making the football team. I mean, could Zach Pickens flash and have a 2-sack game tonight against the Chiefs? Sure. Does that make him all of a sudden like, wow, you just saved your spot on the roster? I don't know. So he needs to show. Dominique Robinson, like, the clock is ticking on him too here. I mean, what's it going to be? I mean, the ankle is tough, but, that's not his fault. But, I thought he was kind of a roster bubble guy coming in anyway. Didn't know if and I really thought they'd go out, and it's not now, but, early in the summer to go find another rush edge. Everyone's talked about that. They still need help. Not sure what you're going to get out of Odengbo, if he's going to be that guy to complement Sweat like Sweat needs to be complimented. So, I don't know, but Pickens, Robinson, Roschon Johnson, if I were I'm guessing one of those guys, maybe two, don't make the team. And again, you're there every day at Hallis. You have a better feel than me, but my guess is one or two of those guys don't make the team.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. And obviously that's why we'll be watching for tonight, obviously, with that big moment for them to kind of prove why they deserve to be out there. Obviously, Roschon Johnson likely won't play because he's still dealing with a toe injury. So a lot of interesting decisions to be made. Guys, we've got a few minutes here before we're going to say goodbye. So get your final questions in here. Sports Chicago Style asked if Walker would be claimed off the practice squad, I'd rather keep him over Tyler Scott. I think that's kind of the spot you're in right now, right? Like, especially with that cornerback depth, I think you've seen more from Jahdae Walker than you have from Tyler Scott. And I think listen, the wide receiver spot is important, but your secondary is really important too, right? So I would agree with that assessment. I think if Walker, I think Walker has a really good chance to be claimed by someone off the practice squad if that's what the Bears decide to do. So I think I think that hurts Tyler Scott's case. He also said, is Stevenson one personal foul away from being traded? I don't know if I'm going to go that far. Listen, Ben Johnson has talked about it this year. We've seen Tyreek is Tyreek, right? He's going to be vocal. He's going to get after it. We saw a couple times against the Dolphins and the Bills. He's going to get into some stuff. He is going to be vocal, and he's going to upset some guys. He's going to be going back and forth. And Ben Johnson has said they know how they're going to handle it. They're not going to – it's been put out there. Like, Tyreek knows what the expectation is from this coaching staff. I don't think that the Bears coaching staff is going to be like, Tyreek, you can't talk. You got to be quiet. You can't do anything. Like, I don't think that's their approach. But I think their approach is, if you're going to get a personal foul, like, you're not going to play. Like, you're not going to go out there or anything. Like, you can't have a personal foul cost your team. And I think Ben Johnson had some experience with that with Jameson Williams, obviously last year. Or Wilson Williams, whatever. But he had that experience with the Lions last year. So I do think that I don't think he's going to get traded. I don't think he's going to get pushed away. But I do think that the expectation is out there. CJ asking, can Karan pass to the practice squad? I would say no. I think any team would see that you have the talent there, right? He's a smart kid. He just hasn't had the reps, right? He missed all of last year. This training camp, he missed a couple weeks because of a leg injury. Like, I think any team would see that at this point, and they would be like, I'm going to take the shot on it, and I'm going to give him a contract and put him on the roster. So I don't think you can risk that with Karan. I think you got to put him on your roster. I think you got to keep him out there. So I would not think that he's a practice squad. He's not a cut. I think that I think Ryan Posey and Cunningham like him a lot, obviously, for taking him in the third round out of Yale a couple years ago, and I don't think they're done with him by any means. Joe, before we say goodbye, we haven't really touched on this, and I just want to poke your brain on it before we say goodbye. Obviously, you mentioned the pass rushing. Obviously, there are two big pass rushers out there to go get. Trey Hendrickson with the Bengals, and Micah Parsons with the Cowboys. I feel like a lot of the reporting has been out there that, from like Adam Schefter has said that this is heading toward a divorce. And I don't think Adam Schefter says that unless he knows that. Like, Adam Schefter he's in the know. He knows what's going on. And he's not just going to put out there for clickbait or anything like that. Like, if he puts it out there, there's real sources and there's real substance to it. So I'm going to ask you the question, like, come next week, are you trading for Micah Parsons? Are you trading for Trey Hendrickson? Obviously, the prices are different. Micah Parsons is going to cost you much more. But are you comfortable enough with Caleb? Are you comfortable enough with Caleb and what the Bears have built here to trade away future draft picks to go after Micah Parsons and to give Micah Parsons a major contract, right? Like, you have the benefit right now of having a rookie quarterback, but you're going to have to pay him a lot of money and going to have to use up a lot of your salary cap. So are you making that investment, or are you not diving in the waters there?
No, it's a great question. And like you said, it's going to depend on the cost. And Mike is going to cost you more. He's a lot younger. But boy, either guy fits. Well, they fit on any team, but there's needs there, because that linebacker spot for the Bears, that third linebacker spot is still kind of, but Mike could play on the edge and kind of a hybrid anyway, DN linebacker. And then Hendrickson, I'm in. I mean, it's going to cost you a first. Does it cost you two? Depends. Mike is going to probably cost you two. But
yeah, at least two.
Right. I mean, and that would be, I'm not going to pay three. Then you're getting silly. I think both guys are there to be had. My biggest fear would, what if Green Bay or Detroit goes out and gets him?
They're linked to them.
The Vikings go out and get him. So I think internally the Bears have to know, hey, this offense is ready. We're not there yet, but we're good enough to compete and win football games. And then I think you'll start seeing getting better and better. those guys are absolute. I mean, they don't need to be, explain how good a football players either of them are. But I would go for it if it's going to cost you two. I mean, Hendrickson, Trey Hendrickson is what, 32? He's not a kid anymore.
He's in his early 30s. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I don't think he's going to cost you a first round pick. I don't think you at this point, especially, given that he's missed most of his training camp, I think the most the Bengals are going to get are a second round pick at this point.
Yes, go get him, because the Bears are in this situation where you got Caleb in the rookie contract. He's not costing you a fortune. You hope Loveland and Bird are going to be playmakers. They certainly have teased us enough. You're not paying them yet. You're gonna have to pay them in 3 years, those guys, Caleb in a couple of years. But so this is the time to go get it, because I think they got money. I don't know their cap situation. You know better than me, but I go for it. This is the window. When you got the QB, they're not, DeAndre Swift isn't making a lot of money. There's not a lot of money there. I mean, they threw money, thank God, into the offensive line. I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head or thinking, there's not a ton. I mean, they got money. This is the time to strike, because these guys are game wreckers. And then if you have an offense that's, competent and can score, 27, 28 points a game, and you throw in Henderson or Parsons and guys who coined the phrase multipliers? Was that at the last year? Ryan
Sure.
Poles, they're complete multipliers, right? So yes, I'm all for it. It's not my money, but sure. I would certainly risk, be willing to part with the draft picks, even if it's 2 first rounders. But boy, can you imagine, Michael, this team with Micah Parsons or Trey Hendrickson? I mean, every team was saying that, right?
I mean, it would
our defense in San Diego if we had these guys. So, but absolutely, I'm in.
Yeah, for me, it's 2 major questions. Are you comfortable? Is Caleb your quarterback? Are you guaranteeing that Caleb is going to be your quarterback? Because obviously the whole reason why the Khalil Mack trade didn't work for the Bears back then when they traded their future for him is because Mitchell Trubisky wasn't a franchise quarterback, right? Like that. Even looking back today, I think that trade, you make that trade again, right? Like that was a successful trade.
Yep.
He was a great player. He got a little dinged up in his second year, and that kind of forced him to have a step back. But that was a good trade. Your quarterback just wasn't the right quarterback, and then that puts you in a bad spot. So I think if you're comfortable and you know that Caleb is your franchise quarterback, you can do that. And I think, are you comfortable with paying Braxton Jones then? Because then you're not – listen, if you are mortgaging your future with draft picks, you're going to have to draft a left tackle if you're not confident in Braxton Jones, right? And are you going to be able to find a starting caliber left tackle in the second round, in the third round, if you have to trade one of your second round picks away too? So –
well, maybe they thought they had one in Ozzie Trapillo. So, yeah. But again, I mean, now what do you do with him now? Because that's in like a season for the next off season then.
Sure.
So either maybe Ozzie can still learn to be a good left tackle. If not, then what are you doing? What are you doing with 2 right tackles who should be starting and only one can start here? That's another issue. Maybe they can you trade rookies? Can you trade rookies, right? Maybe you package them in a trade for Micah Parsons or Trey Hendrickson. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll obviously know more about it. We'll know more next week, and we'll obviously break it down a little bit more next week once we got the games done. With CJ chiming in saying personally he thinks that Parsons is out of position in this Bears defense. I could kind of see that, but Parsons feels like a player to me where you can put him wherever and he'll succeed, right? Like I think you can put him. I know that he's technically a linebacker, right? But I think you can put him in the Montez Sweat spot, a Dio spot. I think my biggest thing is Dennis Allen would know how to use him. Dennis Allen has obviously had a lot. He had Trey Hendrickson obviously before, and I know Trey Hendrickson and Parsons are a little bit different pass rushers than each other. But I would be confident in Dennis Allen being able to make it work, and I wouldn't be worried about that too far. All right. Well, we've got a little bit long here. That's everything that we've got for this week's episode of the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you to everyone who joined us on our live stream on YouTube. If you like what you heard, make sure to give us a like. That's the best way to support us. That's the best way for other Bears fans to kind of find us when we're talking about Bears games and Bears analysis and that sort of stuff. So we really appreciate your support and really appreciate you liking us and joining us. Thank you to everyone who commented. If you didn't get a chance to join us on the live stream, thanks for listening on the podcast. Make sure you check out our social medias. Joe Aguilar. Joe is at Joe Aguilar 64. I'm at Dwojak 94. Joe's got you covered. High school sports are getting underway fully on Monday. Joe's got Friday Night Lights for you folks next Friday, so make sure you're following him and all that stuff. And I'll obviously have tonight's game covered for you from home. I'll provide takeaways from the game tonight after the game happens, and we'll have all of your breakdown heading into next week as we get closer and closer to roster cutdown day. But thanks so much for joining us this week, guys, and we will talk to you folks down the road.